Boa-Ventura, and this is session 3 of the class Marketing, Sales, and Public Relations. And I'll start by sharing my screen and adjusting my image so that you see me on top of your slides, hopefully. So, the session today is entitled Knowing Your Ideal Customer. And you have a worksheet 3 that will get to you along with these videos. And in this session we'll cover customer avatars, channel fit, and by channels we mean social media, we mean email marketing, etc. Balancing everything. So when you know who, you'll know what to say, right? It's very important for you to know your clients. During this session, when we talk about they, we mean your clients, potential clients. So the goals of this session are custom avatars. Let's look at their psychographics and behaviors, channel fit, where your people are already hanging out. That's where you need to be. And then finally, balancing reach, cost, and conversion potential. You know, the day has 24 hours, the week has 7 days. So, how can you really make the most out of your efforts and out of the budget that you have for marketing? And finally, an exercise, find your people, mapping your ideal customer, which you'll be doing with your worksheet 3, so outside of this video. So we'll be covering on sessions 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. We kind of looked at the topic separately. In this case, this session will include all these bullet points that you see here. The journey in this video will start with seeing the person, finding their places, and then choosing your focus. So we mean by this, put on your customer's glasses, sort of like in a very empathic way, take your customer's place in a way, you'll see how, and then find their places, go where your people, your ideal clients are hanging out, and then finally plant your seeds where they will grow. So put your effort where it really will make a difference. And again, really important to know your ideal customer, that marketing only works when it's personal. You looking here at 2 stores that could be, I don't know, in Oakland, in Berkeley, that are very warming and have that fuzzy feeling, welcoming in a community, right? Well, a lot of you probably have or are thinking of building businesses that will be online. That warmth and that fuzziness has to be there as well on an e-store, right? Very important to know your ideal customer, and very important to make that marketing really personal. What we'll explore today, we're going to start with customer avatars, look at their psychographics and behaviors. Then we'll look at the channel fit, where your people are already hanging out. That's where you need to be. And then balancing all of this, the reach, the cost, and the conversion potential. Okay, so let's start with our first topic of today, the custom avatars. Who are your clients? Psychographics and behaviors. So imagine like the joke, right? I don't know, the client walks into a bar, right? Well, in this case, your favorite client walks into your restaurant. Let's imagine that. It's really important for you to know what really moves this person, what's important for her, represented here with by this heart, okay? So understanding this woman, in this case, deeply can guide every decision the business owner makes in marketing. It's really important to know what drives her, what are the things that she thrives in, but also the things that she does not like, that really break her heart in a way, that really are not important for her, or really that antagonize her, that are not interesting for her at all. So you need to understand what that favorite client of yours, who really gets you, who pays on time, who shares the good experience he or she or they had with you as a business owner, shares it with others, this favorite client of yours, you better understand them. Okay, so the demographics and the psychographics, here's a representation. On one side of the demographics, you have marital status, in this case, single, the annual salary, the gender, where the person lives, the profession, of course, and the age. Things like this, things that are what the client is on paper, right? But there's the other side of this, which we'll call psychographics, the things that really move this person, the values, the family, the bonds, relationship with money, where this person likes to enjoy vacations, favorite pets, etc., etc. Okay, so these are things that are not on paper. These are really tastes and things that your customer may enjoy, right? So one thing, the demographics is who is your customer, and the other psychographics is really why they buy. Okay, so very important, the motivation to do that transaction that's really important to you as a business owner. Same demographic can have very different stories. Imagine Claudia, she's 36 years old, she lives in Berkeley, she's a female, she makes 120,000 a year. And imagine Paula, she's also 36 years old and she also a female, lives in Berkeley and makes 120 a year. Exactly. But from the photos, you see that if both of them go to the gym or exercise in any way, jog in the morning, one does it for competition while Paula does it for relaxation. So if you are, for example, selling gym gear to both, you better adapt your messaging to either style, either of these psychographics. Okay, so here I'm going to call Claudia the fitness enthusiast and Paula the wellness explorer. Although in terms of the demographics, they are the same, the psychographics are very different. I'm calling it here like different stories behind these two women, right? Although age, gender, etc., they're all the same. Okay, the 5 W's of understanding our customer. What are these 5 W's? Where you have them here in this diagram: the who, the what, the where, the why, and the when. Who they are, not only in terms of identity, but also what are their values, what they need, or something they fear, or a pain they may have, right? Pain as a client. Where they spend attention, and where they spend attention, by this I mean also online. Where do they spend their time online? Why do they buy? And when do they take action? Okay, so these are the 5 W's, really important for you to have into account. And the clues for you to know where they are, etc., are in plain sight and exactly online, on the posts that they write, on Facebook. We still have Twitter here, but on X, if that's where they are, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, all these things, right? And also the reviews they leave for others on Google, on opinions they express on things like platforms like Reddit, etc. All these things are clues in plain sight digitally, right? That lead you to, to know who your ideal clients are. So you should listen to their tone, to their frustrations, to what success really looks like for them. You know, frustrations, by frustration they also mean pain points. A small business owner who does not have time to be doing social media marketing. Maybe you are a digital marketing agency who wants to offer them your services, right? If you're in business, you should listen to how your customers talk about your product. And they talk about your product in things like Yelp, Google, in reviews that you can publish on your own website, on emails, on social posts, etc. Right? So the clues are in plain sight for you to know what things really move your ideal client. And let's think of a very simple example. We're all familiar with Starbucks, and Starbucks is really not about selling coffee. It's about belonging. It's about the lifestyle, right? And I've learned with my friends, there's two fundamentally different types of people in a way, those that go to Starbucks and those who prefer to help local coffee shops, right? So these are very different types of people. Starbucks doesn't sell coffee, it really sells that feeling of belonging to a certain community. The psychography of the Starbucks ideal customer, it's obvious, right? They value things like connection. A lot of people make Starbucks their like second office, right? The consistency and the comfort. And these three items you see here, they really help them, Starbucks, determine even the style of furniture that they go with. So the consistency, well, in fact, the menu of beverages of Starbucks is very consistent. But every so often, to kind of break the monotony, they introduce something like a pumpkin latte or something around Halloween. So they do have their little times when they go a little off script, but basically it's a very, in terms of the beverage, very consistent menu, and in terms of the food they offer, right? The comfort, the connection, all of this also determines their choice of furniture. It's very specific, correct? And the choice of music that may be playing on Starbucks, right? So it is the psychography of the Starbucks ideal customer that leads to these to the choices of design of furniture, music, etc., by the business owner, by the big corporation that is Starbucks. I would like you to take a moment and think of your favorite customer, the one that pays on time, that does not cause any chaos, any confusion, that really gets what you're offering, services or products, and that once they have a great experience with you, they share with others, right? Your favorite customer, the one that you would love to clone if you could, the one who's easy to serve and that is truly aligned with your brand, right? So think of that favorite customer and think of what do they value, where do they hang out, and write down a few details. We're going to build on this a little later, okay? But what do they value? Where are they hanging out? And I mean either digitally on social media platforms, but also physically in the real world. And then write down also a few details, okay? This is a video. I keep reminding you of that. You can stop it and think a little bit about this, and you'll see on your worksheet you'll have some guidance about it, but I would like you to think a little bit about this, and I will proceed. So you can think of things like the name, age, life stage. By this I mean, are they ready maybe to retire, maybe become an expat in another country? Are they just fresh out of the university? That in that sense, life stage. Goals and challenges, values and beliefs, and buying triggers or objections to actually make a purchase. Okay, so try to describe them. You'll be building on this, but these are things that you probably have already thought about, and if you haven't, this is the time, your ideal customer avatar. Many people go to the extent of, when they're thinking about their customer avatar, they actually pick up a magazine and actually cut out a photo of somebody that they think, this could be my ideal customer, right? So that they can actually project on this physical person and describe them as they develop their marketing strategies. They have this person in mind. So a lot of people go to that extent. So what do they care about most, your ideal customers? Is it family? Is it security? Is it a green planet? Health? Is it purpose? Is it creativity, recognition, freedom? So what are the values that they really care about most? This is really important for you to know about your ideal customers. And again, it's in the realm of psychographics, not demographics. So psychographics are really about values. They're not statistics, they're not numbers, they're about values. And one person that reminded us of this was Steve Jobs. And in this case, he was talking about marketing, but he says marketing is about values. Okay, here he is in 2010 introducing the iPhone 4. I believe he was already pretty sick by then. And how do they make decisions? It's important for you to know, right? So they see something. Let's imagine maybe this will resonate more with my female audience, maybe, but they see a Prada bag. They see something they covet, right? And from there, they will compare, they will decide, and then eventually they will buy. And if they're really happy with what they bought, they will probably share with others. They'll post photos wearing this bag on Instagram. They will rave about it on reviews on Google, etc. Right? So this is not a very quick process, or it may not be a very quick process. It may take hours, months, and even years. And sometimes some people will need a social proof. Maybe they need expert content, and maybe they need emotional reassurance. So this stage here, comparing with other, in this case, products in the market, and then deciding, may take as little as seconds for those compulsive buyers among us, or sometimes years if it's something extremely expensive that you really need to give it some thought. Take another moment and really, this is an exercise of empathy. Really walk in their shoes and think what is their morning? How is their time of work? Do they have a job where the work is hybrid? Do they go into the office, and then as they go home, are they taking the BART, or are they taking somewhere where they will be on their social media posting away? And then in the evening, what do they do, right? So take a moment to walk in their shoes and really think, when during these times will they be receptive to marketing messages? Where do they scroll? And what problems, in other words, pains, pop up before they encounter your offer, right? So think about this. When are they receptive? Where do they scroll? And what pains pop up before they encounter your offer? And these are all things that you should integrate and incorporate in your messaging. I don't know if you remember him. We talked about him on session 1A when we looked at a few brands, right? This is, in this case, a YouTube video, actually, an ad about a motivated self-starter. And on the next slide, I'm going to play the video a little. Hopefully you can hear it.
Greatness. It's just something we made up. Somehow we've come to believe that greatness is a gift reserved for a chosen few, for prodigies, for superstars. And the rest of us can only stand by watching. You can forget that. Greatness is not some rare DNA strand. It's not some precious thing. Greatness is no more unique to us than breathing. We're all capable of it. All of us.
So I will leave it there. Of course, the ad was controversial. Some people were worried that this kid was probably being exploited, made fun of. on YouTube, but others actually shared that it was extremely motivational for them and inspiring. But what I want to get to with this, if I can go to the next slide, is, and in fact, this is, as you see, it's in French, screenshot of a Nike French YouTube video. So it really went global, this ad. And the idea really here is that Nike's audience isn't just athletes, it's anybody who identifies itself motivation, like this kid, right? So again, psychographics. Nike did not want to project this idea that we make shoes for the big basketball and football players or for the very active individuals, but it's really anybody who is self-motivated to go further, right? Another situation here, let's imagine a nonprofit. I really didn't think of a brand. I'm going to call it XYZ nonprofit. And in this case, imagine that there is the brand, this nonprofit is really the ideal customer is a conscious, the ideal donor, I should say, is a conscious contributor, right? So for that nonprofit XYZ, this ideal donor may be someone who values transparency and local impact. And these are important things because then if the nonprofit knows this, they can actually craft a journey for the donor instead of just launching campaigns on social media with not much of a strategy, right? No, they can actually craft the donor's journey if they do know what values the ideal donors have. When do avatars go wrong? Well, when we find ourselves saying things like, anyone, my ideal customer, my customers that I want are anyone who needs something. Or my guess is that if you like X, then you would like Y. So I sell Y, so I'm good. Or that's it. I've defined my avatar. I did a cutout on the magazine. I've described it completely, and now it's good for as long as my business is active or for the next 5 years. Well, this will not work. Anyone who needs something, this is too generic. My guess is that if you like X, and you will like Y. Now, this is based on assumptions, right? And finally, you do have to integrate the fact that the data changes, your audience grows, so you need to revisit the information and adapt your avatar to the new information. So another problem here is never revisited this avatar, right? So these are 3 things to avoid. All thumbs down for this. Okay, so avatars have to be specific, they cannot be based on assumptions, and you really need to revisit the way you have defined them because everything changes, market changes, and the trends change, etc. You need to revisit that data. And we're on to our second topic of the session, which is about the channel fit. From knowing who they are, your customers, to knowing where they are, because that's where you need to be. If you hate LinkedIn, but you're busy, you have a B2B and you work with adults age 45 to 55, well, you better be on LinkedIn, very likely, of course. I would need more details about your customers to say that with this certitude, but my point being that you're not on the social media that you like, your favorite ones, you need to be on those where your ideal customers are, your avatar. Meet them where they are, basically. Visibility starts with proximity. Where do they already hang out? Online and offline. Very important for you to answer this question for your potential customers because that's where you need to be, right? And why? Because if you are where the conversation is already taking place, the relevant conversations for you, all right, for your business, whether you sell products or services, for example, If you go there where the conversation is already taking place, you just join it naturally and everything flows so much more naturally, right? So join the right conversations, only then will you enter with relevance and timing. Otherwise, it will feel like a very forced entrance if you're not already in the spaces, the virtual spaces and the physical spaces where your potential customers are. So join the right conversations. In technical terms, this can be done, for example, via hashtags. You post something on Instagram and it has to do with Portugal, right? So you, by using the hashtag Portugal, you make sure that that post you just did on Instagram is now part of an ongoing conversation that people are having about Portugal, right? So it's an example of how you can join the conversations that make sense. Reddit is a great platform to join conversations on different topics as well. Channel fit, we're still talking about the channel fit. Let's talk a little bit about the media ecosystem. What do I mean by this? Well, you've got several types of marketing. You can go with paid marketing through ads, boosts, that Facebook post that had so much engagement that you think it's actually worth it to invest a little money to boost it. Maybe sponsorships. And then you have the earned kind of media, right? Shares, mentions, reviews, and you've got the ones that you yourself own as a business owner. Your website, your email, the blog, that way you post systematically and consistently, right? You really hear the paid media is what you pay for, obviously, right? The earn is what others amplify. So others go out and share and write reviews about and write testimonials about your products and services. And finally, the media that you control, have total control over, is the owned, right? Your website, your email, your blog. You'll see in a second that we're going to talk a little bit about Tesla and how Tesla really focuses a lot on owned media. We'll talk about it. So whereas John, as a corporate consultant, feels very comfortable on LinkedIn and something like X, for example, as a platform, May, who's a visual artist, she thrives on TikTok and Instagram. So the social media platforms they are completely different. The channels are completely different. So you need to choose the channels that fit that persona, that avatar, your ideal customer, not the ones you prefer, but those that fit your clients. So where do your clients scroll, shop, and talk? Where? That's very important for you to know because that's where you need to be, right? So I kind of actually this was AI generated, and so were the two previous images with Canva, and so AI generated an attention map, so it's purposefully kind of unreadable. The idea being that you can have your avatar. You probably don't have just one avatar, right? You have several personas that represent your several ideal customers. And then for each, you can have any type of matrix you want. You can have channels like radio, but also Facebook, newspapers, local coffee shops. All these are possible channels, right, for marketing. And then you describe when is each one of these avatars on that channel and what are the pain points, etc. Where do they scroll, shop, and talk? Okay. So you can map where online in the physical world your people's attention flows, right? That's called an attention map. And it's important. You may ask me, that sounds really complicated. Well, you can draft this on an Excel spreadsheet. You'll have some guidance again on your worksheet 3. But the idea being that you should be able to know where each of one of your avatars scrolls, shops, and talks. What apps do they open daily? Where do they ask for help? And where do they go to be inspired? Okay. What apps, where do they ask for help? Where do they go for inspiration? Very important that you know these things about your favorite customers. So for example, this is a different interpretation of this attention map, but it's really very much the same idea. Channel, let's think of a local coffee shop, but it could be the TV, Instagram, Facebook, a newspaper. Okay, so and then on the other columns you have a match, a mismatch, and an opportunity. Maybe for your business, a good match is the local coffee shop, Instagram, and a newspaper, but then the TV is a total mismatch for you to actually pay for TV ads. Wow, that is expensive. And in this case, it's just an example. There's a mismatch. And where there's an opportunity here with Facebook, okay? Probably because here there is a mismatch, so there's not even an opportunity. And also because, of course, advertising on TV, even local to some extent, is so expensive that it really needs to be a match to be worth it. So where do they scroll, shop, and talk? And if your audience is not on local TV to watch those ads on local TV, which is probably the only thing you could afford as far as advertising on TV, then there's a mismatch because that's not where your personas, your ideal clients are. So from finding people, let's now switch to choosing priorities. So okay, so you know where they are, but now let's focus our energy on what really matters, right? So different channels have different purposes, and I bet most of you are familiar with the marketing funnel. Usually, of course, a funnel, it's an inverted triangle, if I can describe it this way, where the vortex is at the bottom, right? And there are several variations of this. We'll be talking about funnels on the next session 4. So for now, I just want you to know that one of the most simplified ways to represent this funnel is starting with awareness. People become aware of your business, of your brand. Then engagements. Only part of those that are aware of your brand will actually engage with it. So that's why we're decreasing in terms of the number of individuals, right, of clients. And then finally, a smaller portion of those that engage will actually convert, meaning will buy from you, will acquire your service or buy your products, right? So this is why the vortex is at the bottom, because you, of course, go from a large number of individuals that become aware that your business exists to those that actually engage, and finally those that actually acquire, convert in the sense of transact with you. For awareness, things that really work well are social media, SEO, ads. For engagement, the blog, the podcast, the email list. And for conversion, your website. You could have an e-commerce website, or you can have, if you're a consultant, maybe you have on your contact page a form where people can sign up with you, schedule through Calendly or something like that. Schedule an appointment with you, because that's, in your case as a consultant, the transaction we're talking about is to schedule that first meeting. A landing page, a consultation, etc. Right? If you're thinking of using Instagram to convert, not a great idea, right? Instagram is wonderful for awareness, but don't expect Instagram to close a sale. Instagram actually has a lot of rules. Not you cannot really include links on your posts, etc., etc. Have a limited number of characters, etc. Right? But for awareness, Instagram is amazing, is great, right? So understanding this pyramid, this funnel, in a very simplified way. For now, session 3, we're talking about awareness, engagement, and conversion. Understanding this pyramid helps you design the right message for each step. So it's very, very important. Okay, so let's keep this in mind, and let's keep in mind what we saw here what type of channel is appropriate for which stage: awareness, engagement, conversion. I'll proceed. So still talking about different channels and different purposes. For example, let's look at awareness, engagement, and conversion. This is just a different way to really display what you saw 2 slides ago. For awareness, you have social, you have YouTube, you have partnerships. For engagement, you have blogs, newsletters, workshops. For conversion, you have email campaigns, booking pages, and calls. Some of these are actually non-digital, right? They are part of the physical world, the real world, if you want. So your role as a business is to get people, of course, going from awareness, where you'll be using some of these, or maybe just one of these, to engagement, really engaging with your brand, and you'll be using one or two of these maybe, or all of them and more. And then finally, conversion through email campaigns, through booking pages, calls, etc. Okay. So this will be your role, to take them from awareness to conversion via engagement. So there's really 2 ways to go about this. One is to be everywhere, and the other is to be intentional. So these are 2 very different approaches. If you want to be everywhere, you probably sleep, I don't know, 2 hours per night, because you'll be working on your social media, you'll be writing your blog posts. Hopefully now with ChatGPT will help you, but still, you have to run your business as well, right? So it's difficult to be everywhere. The other idea is to be intentional, to really target exactly the audience that is composed of your ideal customers, right? So your message is much more targeted. That's why you hear about targeting messaging, right? So in fact, being consistent on fewer channels outperforms noise across many. So the really amazing brands know how to do this very well. But we'll see some examples in a second. So let's look at a matrix that is very interesting of effort versus engagement, because you want to put your effort where it really, will somehow have an impact, right? And get you to gain more leads and grow your business. That's what we all want, right? So let's look at this effort. And let's not worry about this for now, but we have 2 axes. On the x-axis you have effort, on the y-axis you have engagement, of course, low and high, right? And so if you will think of quadrants, of course, here is in this quadrant is something that requires a lot of effort, but also produces a lot of engagement, okay? And in this quadrant here, there's a lot of engagement that comes out of it and not much effort. So I like this quadrant, right? How about you? This one here has low engagement, so not great, not very efficient, but little effort. Okay, so something to consider. This one is really bad because it requires a lot of effort and the engagement is low. So you prioritize high value, those that bring engagement without draining resources, and you drop or you automate the rest. Okay, that's the whole idea here. And as you can imagine, this is the winner here. This is, if you want to call it, low-hanging fruit. This is the overload zone. This is high value because lots of effort, but also lots of engagement. Right? And finally, keep monitoring here. So low effort, but also low engagement. Okay. Another way to describe this matrix, or really describe a little bit in greater detail and see what typical channels and actions are appropriate for each and what to do, would be something like this. So on the quadrant name you have, if you remember, low hanging is the most important one, right? High engagement and low effort. You have high value, overload zone, and keep monitoring. This is the list. In fact, this is the least interesting of all because high effort and low engagement. So this is the most interesting, this is the less interesting that you would drop or automate. Low hanging fruit means quick wins that don't require much time or budget but generate real connection. Okay, it's important to notice that the typical channels and or actions here are email newsletters, organic Instagram posts, local networking. And what to do? Well, you double down here, right? These are really interesting to focus on. Then you have the keep monitoring. If you remember, the keep monitoring was here. So little effort, but also little engagement, right? So just going to get there again. Easy to maintain, but not highly effective, can serve as a background presence. And the typical channels and actions here are Facebook page updates, directory listings, and what to do, keep active. It's a background presence, but minimal energy. Do not spend money or a lot of time on this. High value, demanding but high impact channels, so it's worth the investment. And so if you remember, it was the lower right, high value, so high, lots of effort but also high engagement. YouTube webinars, partnerships, live events. So plan strategically and sustain. That's what you would do. This is really interesting to focus on, but it really requires some time and effort and sometimes some money investment. And then the overload zone, time consuming, little payoff, often vanity projects or outdated platforms. And examples are X for small brands, expensive ads with poor ROI. What to do? Just drop it. Just reduce or stop or reallocate resources. The money and time that you are spending here, you better invest it in something else, right? So this is an interesting way to really transform that matrix into something that's actionable and to really choose the channels according to what you want really to do, right? So take a moment. Where did your customers first hear about you? It's kind of an interesting question. Was it through a referral? Was it on Google? Was it social media? Was it an event? Or was it others? So think a little about it. This is a video. You can stop, think a little about it. And let's talk about attention shifts in 2025. Attention is fluid, okay? You remember that attention map, right? Where you can map where your different avatars are, right? But there are attention shifts in 2025. There are trends in everything that's related to, for example, social media. So what are these attention shifts? Well, short videos are going up, TikTok, etc. The newsletters are staying steady. The Facebook groups are kind of decreasing in terms of attention grabbers. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. What is important then is to think that you need to be on the right place at the right time and with the right message. This is what you want. Right place, right time, right message. So the channel fit is all about alignment of all these things: the place, the time, and the message. Everything has to be aligned for your message to actually be impactful. So take another moment and audit your current channels and really think. You've got the statistics and the analytics that you have access to. And if you're not too familiar with this, there's of course tons of videos on YouTube, and now we have ChatGPT to help you interpret your analytics, your Facebook insights, your LinkedIn insights, etc. So what's really driving engagement? What may be wasted effort? Maybe just stop doing it. Maybe you're paying a very, very expensive video editing team to put your videos up there on YouTube edited, and it turns out that that's not where your potential and ideal customers are, right? So maybe it's money wasted. So what may be wasted effort? Maybe stop doing it. And here's what I mean. you would list your current channels. Let's imagine that your current channels are YouTube, ads on a local magazine, and Facebook. And then what's working? YouTube in this case. So it's not what I was talking about just now. Another example where YouTube is actually working, and what's not working is ads on local magazine. This can be really expensive, and Facebook. So what should you do? Next step, well, YouTube, you are publishing monthly. Well, let's start publishing weekly because it's a really good platform for you, right? So, and in the case of ads on a local magazine on Facebook, just cancel. Or just in the case of Facebook, maybe just diversify topics. Maybe it's the type of topics you're publishing that are not grasping the attention of your ideal customers, right? So from presence to priorities is, let's think, how can we balance everything that we've been talking about? How can we balance reach, cost, and conversion potential, right? Well, it's important to find your sweet spot where that visibility, the budget, and the results meet. So you've got your diagram here with the reach, the cost, and the conversion. And keep in mind that not every channel deserves the same investment, right? As we saw. So you need to see what is really worth it for you to invest on. And when I talk about investment, it can be staff, if you have staff in your company, your time, your energy, and your money, right? So the three levels of channel strategy where visibility, budget, and results meet are these. Can be represented by a triangle that, as opposed to the marketing funnel, this one is upwards. So the vortex is towards the top, and it's usually represented like this. You've got reach on the vortex, conversion, and cost. Okay, so these are three vortexes, let's put it that way. And there's usually a tension between all three. And why? Well, first let me say that the reach is how and how many people see you. The cost is, as I was saying, time, money, energy, and stuff. I mean, stuff is basically money because you're paying them, right? And conversion, how some take action, right? If they actually take action and acquire those services you're offering or the products you're offering, they're converting, right? And usually there's a tension between these reach, cost, and conversion. And it's important to understand why and how. Well, big reach often costs more, obviously, right? You know that Google ads and Facebook ads, yes, great way for a recent business to get the word out and reach out to the community, local community, global community may be the case, right? But big reach, and we have reach here, often costs more. Okay, so we have here big reach, big cost as well. In this case, reach and conversion, high conversion often comes from smaller audiences that are very targeted, right? If I am very interested in buying red shoes to dance tango, this is very specific, right? Well, it's really from a smaller audience of the tango dancers in the East Bay area, right? If I was offering just that in East Bay, I probably had a high conversion. There's a lot of factors that are have to be taken into account, especially SEO, search engine optimization, etc. But high conversion, in fact, often comes from smaller audiences. And here, a higher marketing budget often leads to greater conversion, obviously, right? Again, the same example with Google ads and Facebook ads. Yes, they offer a big reach, but also the outcome is very often a higher conversion, right? So a higher marketing budget often leads to greater conversion. So there's tensions between these three vortexes, but it's really important you understand in your business that you have or the business you're thinking of creating, how all this will work. Okay, reach, how and how many people see you, cost, time, money, and energy, and conversion, how some will take action, and how you're going to balance all of this. So let's see an example. Email marketing. Email marketing is small reach, high conversion, and low cost. Okay. So it's actually one of the highest conversion rates for the lowest ongoing cost. So it's really interesting, because if you think of those quadrants that we were looking at in terms of effort versus engagement, email marketing is a really interesting one because it requires little effort and high engagement, so that the outcome is pretty good. The example I'm using here is an email marketing screenshot of an Italian design company called Fornasetti. Very, very high end. In fact, I did not use, of course, the actual email that I received from them, but this image that you see here, it rotates and it shows other products that Fornasetti is using. There's huge real estate of the page dedicated to the image, because it's a very strong point of this company, right? So it talks to their values. It's understandable. This is not the full email marketing, of course, it's the top of it. But yeah, so a great way to have high conversion at a low cost and with small reach is email marketing. Paid social ads. Sometimes we hear about paid social. Well, these paid are ads, of course. So in this case, there's a big reach, but the cost is high and the conversion varies a lot. Okay, so I've heard of consultants that spend thousands of dollars advertising on Google Ads and on Facebook Ads, and they just get 2 or 3 people registering for their paid webinars and seminars. And why? Well, there's a lot of reasons that include the creative, the actual ad, how it was designed, and the connection to the landing page where people can register, how easy it is to register, etc. There's a lot of variables. So there's a variable conversion, but there's a big reach, cost is high. And advertising on things like, for instance, LinkedIn is very expensive. So I don't want to scare anybody, but you have access to something called Google Analytics that will allow you to, for free, understand what's going on. The metrics, the analytics, how many people are visiting your site, and a lot of information about those visits. Well, I'm giving you an example here of just a general type of ad. And in this case, there was $1,800 cost in the last 30 days. Not all of us can afford this regularly as a marketing budget. But 242,000 clicks were generated. Of course, these only part, and this number is normal, 1.27%. It's not unusual. Only 1.27%, so that would be about 2,000 clicks, right? Would actually went to the website, right? So people saw the ad, there was a link to the website, and 1.27% of these clicks on the ad, 1.27 actually click through. So the paid social ads, they amplify visibility fast. That's why they're great for recently formed businesses, but they burn budget quickly. Your marketing budget, you better have a backup, because this goes fast, right? So very different situation from the email marketing. Another example, just in-person events. You can go to these in-person events and sell your services and sell your products. In this case, there's medium reach, medium cost. There's a lot of variables here. There are things like chambers of commerce that imply that you have to pay annually, the fees, etc. So medium reach, medium cost, but high trust conversion. So because you are physically on site with a group or with somebody else, what happens is that trust factor is huge in in-person events, and the face-to-face channels in fact, build credibility. So I encourage everybody to figure out, identify some professional networking groups, and also professional networking groups that include your ideal customers, or then that include professionals that can refer clients to you, to the services and products you offer. Okay. So if you want to stop the video, don't stop it yet. First, check out what I have on this slide. But score your current channels, like what's driving engagement, what may be wasted effort, maybe stop doing it. And you remember that we talked about this earlier, but now let's really give a score. Okay, so we were talking about YouTube, ads on local magazine and Facebook, and you can actually score these things in terms of like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. We're adopting 1 to 5 here in terms of the reach, the cost, and the conversion. So YouTube, if it's working really well for your business, as we were saying a couple of slides ago, then you would have a reach of 5. And the cost is maybe of 2, because maybe you are the person editing the videos. That takes some energy and time, right? And the conversion, you're getting a 4 there, pretty good score, right? The ads on local magazine, reach is terrible, 1. The cost is really high, 5. The conversion is really bad, so obviously just drop it, right? This is really bad. So low reach, low conversion, and high cost, this is just drop it. And in the case, this would fall in the bad quadrant on that matrix we saw of engagement and effort. And in the case of Facebook, the reach is not great, but the cost is low and the conversion is not great. But this here, you don't really need to drop it immediately. Maybe you could automate it. Maybe you could not invest too much of your time and energy, but it's something to be decided. Not like here in this case, absolutely you should drop it. So if you think about your sweet spot on those quadrants, and you have the cost low to high and the conversion low to high, so instead of effort and engagement, we now have cost and conversion. And let's think in terms of channels: social media, paid ads, website, and email. Okay, well, you can represent your data as something like this, right? Conversion, cost, and then your data, your channels, where your business is, where your brand is, and just place them in the right spots on the chart. If it's converting highly, meaning through that particular channel you are selling a lot of services and or products, but the cost is high, you'll end up around here. If the cost is low and it's causing a lot of conversion, you'll end up here. That's really good here. And in this case, it's social media, right? And if the cost is low, the cost is medium here with paid ads, and the conversion is low, then this is not good, because not many people are converting. And here the cost is kind of high with the website. Maybe you're paying a technician to maintain your site, but the conversion is getting up there. So this would be something to consider, right? So see what your sweet spot is. In the example that we seeing here, of course, is anything that's high here on the conversion and low on the cost. So if you see low cost, this is cost like low, and high on conversion, we have social media. So that's our sweet spot in this case, okay? So the bigger the bubble, the broader reach, the larger the audience. So these two have a big reach. The website and the email have a more targeted, smaller reach, especially the email marketing. Okay, smaller bubble is a niche reach, so targeting of the audience, email and website. So here's our sweet spot. Low cost, high conversion. Top left. Social media is a sweet spot, but you have these other 3 quadrants, right? So let's look at these three quadrants here. If you look at them with like a magnifying lens, you really look at this deeply and draw some conclusions here. You have bottom, middle, kind of right, bottom on the conversion and middle kind of on the cost. High cost, low conversion. It's really an energy drain. In this case here, the paid ads. The website mid-range, moderate cost, moderate conversion. It's something to think about, right? Because it's moderate cost and moderate conversion, maintain or optimize. Maybe you can do something with this website, maybe redesign it, maybe make the transaction page simpler to be used, because I can tell you a lot of people have very, very complex pages for the actual checkout, right? So maybe there's improvements to be done to the website that will increase, that will project it here higher on this axis here, okay? And finally, the email top right, so high conversion, but also maybe a higher cost of time or technology. So it's a strategic investment if you can manage resources, because it converts a lot. So even if the cost is high, and you may tell me, well, but Constant Contact, MailChimp, that's not, the cost is not very high. Well, in those particular platforms, it's not, but you could be using, there are some that are very expensive, and you can be using sophisticated, like I just showed you, the Italian brand that has the rotating images on email marketing, which is not trivial, not all platforms allow something like that. Or maybe you have email marketing that includes video, and you're having an outside team editing your videos, etc. So you could have an email solution that is high in cost, but if it converts highly, it's something to consider, right? So think about, in your case, with your business and or with the business that you're thinking of building, what would the situation be? Okay. So really, of course, this is so logical. Double down on the channels that give you the best ratio of impact to effort, right? You really want to concentrate resources on what moves the needle. You don't want to be spinning your wheels, right? So double down on those channels that are giving you good results, meaning high conversions, and even if they are costly for you to evaluate, costly in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of energy, it's up to you to decide. Maybe they are worth investing, or maybe even optimizing. The best marketers, they simplify, they focus on fewer channels and do them deeply and well. I hear a lot of people ask me, Anna, should I like be posting constantly on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Pinterest, and all these things? And I say, better do less, but really understand who you're talking to, who are your, where are your favorite customers, and really simplify. So focus on fewer channels and do them deeply and well. And this is actually a great quote. I love it. Focus is a strategy in itself, by Greg McKeown. You have him here. Focus itself is a strategy. So, and the marketers that are more strategic about, the brands that are more strategic about marketing, they focus on fewer channels. Exactly. Let's see a few examples. Start with Patagonia, and this is CEO of Patagonia in 2021. And you'll see in a second what he said in this interview represented here. But Patagonia strategically eliminated some channels and doubled down on others, right? So they said they did this out of convictions, values, but also for strategic reasons. So during between 2019 and 2021, they basically dropped Facebook and Instagram. Okay, and there'll be another cross here, but they dropped both. And then they doubled down on email, on their website, and on something they called, well, that's known as documentary style storytelling. And we'll see one of those stories in a second as a YouTube video. But so they really let go of social media, and this is where they focused by doubling down, actually, email, website, and the documentary style storytelling. There's the cross on Facebook as well. So then the money that they were spending probably in ads, social ads on Facebook and Instagram, they redirected toward community-driven campaigns and ambassador content that fit their core audience's values. And the result was that the audience was very, very happy with these changes. And when I say happy, I mean the sales increased tremendously after this 2021. And this is what Ryan is talking about. He says we're more interested in meaningful engagement than maximum reach. Okay, the idea of really engagement that has a meaning was really what his focus was. This is an example of that documentary style storytelling. Patagonia, they cut channels, they refocused on own storytelling and grew deeper loyalty. Of course, that this is own storytelling because this is produced by them. It's on their YouTube channel. And you've got the link here if you want to revisit this later, but I just wanted to play a little bit. Hopefully you can hear it.
Across North America a bunch of times. South America, Bolivia, bicycled from the Andes above La Paz down to the upper Amazon. It's been to Ireland. Yeah, it's been Australia, Hawaii. We've cycled the Big Island 3 or 4 times. My name's Jim Brady. I'm a teacher and I take kids on trips, and I've had this jacket for 15 years. I could have gotten rid of this a long time ago, but it tells a story every time I put it on and take the sand out of it maybe, or dry it off if I've been in the rain. It tells me a story, and I can look at it and remember, and I get to tell other people stories off that too. The blue paint, we painted a bench, and it's out in the garden now. The old tape here, the upholstery tape, got a little snagged in some barbed wire. I think this one is the one I went over the handlebars to celebrate my 60th birthday 2 years ago, but I had a good crash. Having stuff with legitimate wear and tear, I think that reflects what I'm trying to do. I don't need to buy something new. As an educator, when I work with my students, so we talk a lot about resources, and I can talk all day, but I think I just sort of try to teach by example. Clothing, believe it or not, reflects that. All clothes are a statement. When I wear this, part of the message is, man, you can keep this stuff for a long time. That's made well, lasts a long time with good working conditions. If that's where sustainability is going, that's good.
And I'll leave it here. So the idea here, of course, very, in a way, strange that a company would advocate for somebody to not buy more and more Patagonia gear, but actually just keep what they have. At the same time, of course, there's an aspect of the quality of the clothing that's obvious here. But this is the type of documentary style storytelling that Patagonia replaced their Facebook and Instagram socials with, and it's worth visiting. You have the link to the video here, but I will continue. Another example is Tesla. Tesla also, they cut channels, they refocused on owned storytelling, like Patagonia, that's owned storytelling. It's on their YouTube channel, right? And this way, Tesla grew deeper loyalty. So what you see here is part of a conversation about the Model Y of Tesla on X, a platform that's owned by Elon Musk. So Tesla eliminated traditional marketing channels like no TV, no print, no digital ads, which is pretty expensive, right? Especially TV. Relies almost entirely on own channels like their website, Elon Musk's social media X, and referral programs, and then converts trust and advocacy into organic visibility. So the clients of Tesla that swear by it were are absolutely absolutely happy with this kind of type of marketing, right? Um, where there is really a refocus on storytelling and on particular social media X referral programs, website, etc. So I would like you at this moment to take another moment and think about your focus plan. Pick your top 3 channels and then write a clear goal and one immediate action for each. And then could be something like YouTube, Instagram, and local magazine. You choose, okay? But let's have by row the channels, the 3 channels you choose that are most relevant for your brand, having into account your avatars, your ideal customers, and then of course you would have the goal and the next step for each. Okay. And again, this is a video. You can pause and have the time to do this, but I'm going to illustrate what I mean. We have channel, goal, and next step. I'm exemplifying with YouTube, Instagram, and local magazine. So let's see. For as the goal I could have for YouTube, showcase expertise and build trust through helpful how-to content. How-to content, by the way, is ideal for YouTube. YouTube is kind of a platform made for that kind of content. How to make a French recipe, French omelette, or a crepe, or something like that, or how to switch a tire in your car, right? So YouTube is amazing for that kind of thing. Instagram, the goal would be increase walk-in bookings by engaging visually locally. This could be for a hairdresser, for example, right? Yeah, and in fact, if we're thinking of a hairdresser, YouTube showcase expertise and build trust through helpful how-to content, how to curl your hair using the appropriate device, an iron curler, I think it is, curling iron, I'm sorry. And with Instagram, increase walking bookings by engaging visually and locally. And then at the local magazine, boost brand awareness with nearby shoppers. So maybe even set up some partnerships with a beauty supplies store somewhere locally, right? So the next step in the case of YouTube could be record 1-2 minute before and after haircut video this week and upload with a clear title, how to refresh your layers for spring. Okay, so it's a how to refresh your layers for spring, and it's one video, it's 2 minutes, and it's the before and after kind of a video. Okay, and for Instagram, I could have post 3 carousel reels this month. One would be a transformation, one would be a product tip, how to use mousse on your hair after you wash your hair and before you dry it. One client testimonial, and add location tag as Valley Mall Salon, or I don't know, Dublin, California, something like that. On the local magazine, contact the editor of Mall Living or similar to pitch a short stylist tips for summer hair feature and book a small ad with a QR code to your booking link. Okay, so with the local magazine, you it would be a quid pro quo situation. You're going to give the editor these short stylist tips for summer hair. And this small ad would have a QR code that links to your website, to your booking page, or maybe you have a third party where your clients book for your hairdresser. But anyway, you got the channels, you got the goals clearly defined, and then you have your next steps. So really, these next steps on the 3 channels, they become your weekly marketing plan. this is what you're going to do this week or next, and then you would do another plan for the following week. By the way, platforms such as Canva, that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, allow you to have what's called a content planner. Okay, and I think this is available also for the free version of Canva. So basically, you can have a content calendar that goes for like a month, for example, where you have things like this, the steps, all mapped out for the whole month. Okay, so it's, and if you've got Canva integrated with your channels, YouTube, Facebook, etc., you can actually post directly your posts, your videos, etc., directly to the social media platforms. But this session is not about Canva, just giving you an idea there. So take another moment here and think about your next 3 moves, because maybe you do not have a hairdresser. So if in your case, for your business, take 3 minutes to write about the avatar, the channel focus, and the content adjustment. These are the 3 things. The content adjustment meaning really balancing everything out, right? So that you only focus your energy, time, and money in what really produces results, or there is promising in terms of delivering good results, right? So we covered these 3 topics. Take 3 minutes to write about them. So let's recap the journey here, which we started with seeing the person, then finding their places and choosing our focus. And we further clarified that by seeing the person, we mean putting on your customer's glasses, kind of getting into their shoes. It's an exercise in empathy, right? Go where your people hang out. That's where you should be, both in terms of physical spaces and especially digital spaces like social media. And choose your focus. Plant your seeds where they'll grow. Do not, you have a business to run, or maybe you will have one soon. You need to really focus your energy where the impact will be the greatest, right? Next time we'll work on how you're going to communicate with them, and we're going to focus on the marketing funnel and funnels in general. So what did you discover about your audience today? Well, I hope you did discover, and I would like you to note down one thing I now know, just one thing that you got out of this session. Okay, I would love if you could again pause the video and think about that. So know your people. It's by knowing your people well that you can grow your impact. I'm sorry, because you need to have the message aligned with your avatars, with your ideal customers, right? So you have to be where they are and when they are in the platforms where they are. The better you understand them, the easier everything else becomes. Your messaging becomes natural if you're already on the platforms and if you're already joining the conversations where your ideal customers are. Excuse me. The next topic, session 4, will be visualizing your funnel. And we'll have 4 sections. We'll start with funnel basics: awareness, interest, decision, and action. You remember that today we talked about awareness, engagement, and conversion. Well, this one is worded a little different. Mapping tools, simple diagrams, Miro or pen and paper, creating 2 funnel variations, and finally map your funnel flow will be our exercise that, as always, will be guided. You'll find help on worksheet number 4. Okay, so thank you for watching. Again, the tagline for this session was, when you know who, you'll know what to say. And here's an example of one of the diagrams we talked about. Thank you again. See you next time.